Hi and welcome to the class today. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to draw a hyper-realistic nose. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a good old, as you can see, it's a good old scrunched up little study that I found on Pixabay. So I'm quite looking forward to it. It's going to be really, really interesting. So I think let's go over to the photo just to have a closer look, and then we'll do some planning from there. Alrighty, so can you see the gentleman's putting a good old face, lots of little wrinkles and things, and also lots of beautiful pore textures going on his face. So I'm looking forward to sketching that out. So we'll probably draw for about 2 hours. I think that'll be enough for you to see the techniques and get a good feel for them. So we won't necessarily draw the whole thing, but we'll draw enough for you to know exactly what to do and continue from there. So the first thing that you need to realize is when you're drawing hyper-realistic like this is you need to be patient. Drawing detail takes time. So you'll see that just getting the basic sort of shape of the face will go reasonably fast, and then you go over to drawing the details, and that's what takes time. So I can't tell you exactly how long it's going to take to get the basics in, but I'm suspecting half an hour to 45 minutes, and after that everything will be just detail work, and that's when you have to really go over to being patient. Moxie is asking how long have I been drawing? I have been drawing since 1996. Too long. Hi, Coffee Snob, welcome. Alright, so like I say, if you are a patron, you can go and download this and the sketch outline. You can go and download that and print it. If you don't, just use the photo that I'm going to pop on the screen, and then you can just reference from there. So I have multiple cameras here in the studio, so sometimes it does take me a few seconds just to set up the next shot. So bear with me as I do that. Alright, I think I'll put that photo just small in the corner. It'll be enough for us to reference what we're doing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just take a scrap piece of paper. So this is just standard photocopy paper. And then I've got a 9B graphite stick. So you can use just standard 6B, 8B, 9B pencil as well. Works the same thing. This is just hasn't got wood encasing around it. And just scratch over the paper like this until it's full. And we're going to use this just to sketch with. We're going to use it to sketch with. So I'll take this, and then just a scrap piece of cloth, just a t-shirting material, anything that's lint free. And I'm going to put my finger inside it like that. My finger is going to become my pencil. So I'll take this scrap piece of paper and I'm going to rub over it with a cloth. So now I've picked up some of that graphite. And we're going to draw onto here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just give this whole sketch area a layer of graphite. That allows me to, let's get this guy over here for a sec. That allows me to instantly lift out any little super white highlights. Because often I would use this little base layer to do some sketch work as well. with like with other drawings, you don't have a sketch outline as such because it's not necessary. So you just lay down a little base tonal value like this, and then you use your eraser to do the actual, that initial sketch work that you want to do. So you'll see that this picture it's a really large nose, larger than life. And that's important. If you want to draw hyper-realistic, drawing small portraits is difficult because if you're out just millimeters, then you lose the likeness. But now, if you're large, then it allows you to make mistakes and be off a little bit out, and it'll still look correct because it's more or less in the right place. Now, just to show you, can you see that? So I can instantly, because there's tonal value there now, I can instantly lift out a highlight if I want to. Alrighty, there we go. And that's enough. Just you can see from there to there. It's not a ton, but it's enough. It's enough for me to lift out a highlight. Alrighty. So now we're going to take this, pick up, and now you've got just the tip of your finger. And I'm going to lay in tonal value wherever I see it. Just like this. So what I'll usually do, okay. So it seems like it's just Ahmed that's having a bit of a, your internet does tend to, depending on what the time is and how many people are on, I find that it does tend to dip a little. Okay, so I'm just laying down, I'm essentially drawing with my finger and laying down some tonal values here. So the advantage of using this over, say, doing it with a pencil, is I can cover large areas really, really quickly. I think I'm actually even going to tape down this this paper that I've now covered with the graphite, because that is, then I don't have to hold it every time I pick up graphite. So I've got my actual sketch is taped to the table, and so is the graphite covered paper. So as I sketch this out, I want you to take a look and see if you can see what I'm seeing. Do you see the tonal values and stuff that I'm laying down? So when drawing with a cloth like this, you're never going to get really, really darks. This is just good for this initial sketching and for really fine, soft little shadings and things that you want to put down. And for planning, it works great for planning as well. So every now and again, just give your paper a new layer of graphite. Because obviously now as you pick up, you're picking up that loose graphite that's there. You need the loose graphite. Okay, so can you see here underneath the eye, there's that little, as the eyeball rounds out, you get a bit of a shadow over there. Here on the inside, top of the eye. And then here's these little wrinkles over here. I can start suggesting some of them as well. Can you see, just with these few tonal values, you can already start to picture in your mind's eye the face. There's a bit of depth and dimension there already, hey? And that's what the pencil and the cloth, or that's what the cloth gives you, not the pencil, the cloth. Right, so here I'm now gradually just building up some of these tonal values and shapes. To get some shadings already. For example, here I'm adding extra and then just fading it outwards. So one thing when doing this though is don't add so much that you lose all your little sketch outlines. They must still show through. So if you do find you're losing them, then just start to just come back and add some extra, and or sort of define them a bit better with a new layer. Maybe take an HB and just make sure he's visible. Alright, so that's about as far as you're going to be able to take it with the cloth. But I think you can see it gets you to a point quite quickly. Alright, so now I start pretty much anywhere. It doesn't matter where you start, because you've got to do everything anyway. What I like to do is now just start anywhere where I can see like real high contrasts. In other words, I'm going to start with my darkest dark. So this is just a sheet of transparency, which I've got my hand underneath, because it's quite warm here today. So we'll start, let's say, in that little fold over there. So I've got two different types of pencils. I've got a chisel point and a round point. So let's put that guy down there. Then we can move the reference photo to that side over there. Alright, so can you see here? I've got a chisel point pencil. So that I've trimmed out using a knife. So essentially I've taken just a craft knife like this, and I've used my thumb and I've trimmed this side to get that nice and flat. I've turned it 180 degrees, trimmed that side to get that nice and flat. So I've got a flat bit of pencil there and a flat pencil there, giving me a nice sharp chisel point. So this is great. I can do nice flat shadings holding it like this, and by turning it on its side like that, I can do fine detail instantly. This guy here is just standardly sharpened, so he's nice for detail work. Then you can hide the chat box. The easiest way is just to make it full screen. Right, so I've used the sharp chisel side to create that, and then I'm going to turn it on its side. So I'm using the flat edge, and I'm going to use that now to just create the shadings. So this little part of the cheek here is round, so it starts off dark, and then it just gradually goes lighter as I move upwards and to the right. So now initially I'm not worrying about getting any kind of pores or any detail like that. All I'm worried about now at this stage is getting the shape of the face right. When I'm done here, I want to see this face minus any fancy details. So you're looking past the detail and you're looking at the contrasts. Timmy's asking what brand of pencils do I use. I tend to use the Tombow pencils, but not necessarily. Sometimes I use the Stadler as well. Any good quality pencil from a reputable supplier is going to be fine to me. It's not a problem. Right, so here in the bottom of the nose, as it rounds off, it gets darker and darker and darker. So I'm going to start at that bottom edge and establish that edge. Like this. So this is all using that flat edge of the chisel pencil. So you can always see what pencil I'm using by looking at that legend at the top. So you can see at the moment I'm using a green pencil. So if you look at the legend, that tells you I'm using an HB pencil. So I'm using just a little circular motion at this stage. So there's distance, right? Your nose stands up off the face. You've got distance between there and there. So this edge over here needs to be sharp. You want to make sure that you have a hard line between here and here to separate the two. Here, there's a little bit of reflected light, so I'm going to stay off that edge and work over here. So I'm not pressing hard whatsoever. I'm letting the hardness or the softness of the pencil do the work for me. And that way I can come back and I can erase any of this at any time. All the way back to white paper if I wanted to, or if I needed to. Susan is asking if I use powdered graphite. I do sometimes use powdered graphite, Susan, but it's not often. If I have a really, really large area that I need to fill, then I would use the powdered graphite. Similar in the way that I've used the cloth now, but then you just lay the powdered graphite down onto your paper. So that works nice when you're doing really large drawings. So right now, what you're interested in is just tonal values, nothing else, just straight up tonal values. So I'm looking at this area that I'm working with now, and I'm looking at the reference photo, and I'm asking myself, is my drawing dark enough? Is it too dark? This little piece that I'm shading now, does it need to go broader? Those are the questions that I'm asking myself the whole time as I look on the photograph and compare with what I've got on my drawing. Right, so can you see you've got this nice little lighter edge over there. So let's go to all the way to an 8B, because here, this is dark, 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 right? So I'm using an 8B so that I don't have to press hard. So this shadow here tells me that the light is coming from the left to the right. And then obviously from the top as well, eh? So here, making sure again I'm getting that sharp edge like we did over there. There the nose was dark and the top lip was light. Here it's flipped around. So I'm going to pop that down and let's get this guy shaded out. All the while using the chisel point and just a round scrubbing motion. This sketch, it would probably take 3 to 4 hours to do. Today will work for about 2 hours. It'll be enough for you to see exactly how I do it and all the techniques that I use. And then you could continue from there. So we should get quite far with it, quite far with the drawing. Alright, so now I've got quite a bit of tonal value down over here. So now I'm going to just take my cloth, put my finger in again, and just smooth out that tonal value over there. And I can even spread it out to the sides to get a little bit of shading going on there as well. Here by the fulcrum. Can you see how nice it softens that up? Alright, so that's enough for that. So go back to the HB and let's get these darks in over here. So you can see from there the HB is not going to get you as dark as you need to go. So if you're not sure which pencil to use, rather use a harder pencil, an HB or whatever, and get the shape right. Once you get the shape right, then you can easily go darker and re-establish it. But once you've gone too dark, let's just move that reference photo to the side. Once you go too dark, then it's difficult because you can't really erase really darks. So that's why I'd rather start with something like an HB. and first get all these shapes and things right, and the positions right, using absolutely zero pressure on the pencil. So here we're starting to get to all these little wrinkles and things, and there's lots and lots of detail here. So now I'm not going to worry too much about that detail yet. If I can just tell myself where all these darks and things are, I'm happy. So I'm constantly referencing from the photo the whole time. As I'm drawing, my head is going backwards and forwards between the drawing and the reference photo. Alrighty, let's take a look over here. That guy comes over there. So here's this little dent in that vicinity over there. So I'm just going to sketch that out, add this tonal value in here, and here's a few little wrinkles happening in this vicinity here. So you can see I'm not sketching the wrinkles, I'm just sketching the shadings formed by those wrinkles. This little area here can go darker still. To blend the tiny places, we'll be using the pencil and so on. Okay, so we know our light is coming from the left to the right. So in general, the left-hand side of the nose needs to be lighter than the dark side, than the right-hand side. So here you can see I'm darkening up this area here to give me that rounding. And if you look carefully on your drawing, on your reference photo I mean, you'll see it. It goes darker. So that highlight on the nose is sitting around this vicinity here somewhere, hey? Okay, so can you see you've already got that look of the face, of the nose established here. Okay, let's just get some eye in over here as well. So I'm not going to do too much effort here around the eye today. I do just want to plot in where these major wrinkles and things are, so that if we do have time, then we can work on them as well. Very basic little shadings over there for now. Here, your eyebrow casts a shadow, and your eyeball, as it rounds off, it recedes over here. So that area is always quite dark. Here we've got this nice little wrinkle over there. There's, in actual fact, some nice wrinkles we can just put in with a cloth, to be honest. Let's get that guy in over there, like that. This guy in over there, like that. There's a smaller one above him there. And on the other side. We can just quickly establish those guys like this. Yeah, that's great. This paper that it's just standard tracing paper. I just bought a pad of tracing paper and I rip out a sheet and I put my hand on it. It's nice because it's see-through. So it works great to add all that in. Right, so now that I've got those darks established, can you see I can see my face already? So now I'm going to just take my kneaded eraser and I'm going to just roll him up so there's a tighter, like a tube, like this. Let's get into focus there, like this. So now I've got one round side over here. The other side, I'm going to just squeeze. Like this. And now I've got a nice sharp point. Before we continue, I want to briefly tell you about my real-time paint and draw along art classes on my website. For a very small amount, you can get access to over 400 paint and draw along tutorials where you pack out your art supplies and you follow along as I show and explain to you in step-by-step detail how to complete each project. There are classes in acrylic, oil, watercolor, pencil, soft pastel, and even lesser known mediums like pen and ink and sketchboarding. There's a link in the description below. Take a look. You'll be amazed at the awesome classes available there. Alrighty, let's continue from where we left off. So now I can use this sharp point and start establishing where these little highlights are going to be. For example, here on the tip of the nose, that little highlight over there, and I'm gonna rub him and tap him. Rub where it's really light and then tap, and that tapping is going to give you little, I suppose, dots you could say, and that's now starting to give you some pore effect. Some feel of some pore detail. See here, we can add a little bit more. There's a little darker patch over there as well. So let's just pop that in so that we can start lifting out around it. Okay, so can you see I'm just tapping. Over here, this area is a bit darker, so I'm going to lay down some more tonal value over there as well. Alright, so now I'm still using that point. Here I'm starting to lift out some of these little, the brightest brights. So look for it as you got those wrinkles. They form little lines. So I'm lifting out those lines. As I get you to the darker areas, you'll start to see that a bit better. So you're going to try and use your reference photo to find these lines and get them in as best you can. So what I'll often do, let me get I'm working from this as I'm drawing, right? My reference photo. So let me just fold him back. And you can see what I'm doing. So I'll do this. So my left hand is pointing to where I'm working. And that's why I don't get lost in all these wrinkles. For example, I'm now working over here. So can you see my finger is pointing at that spot? And by doing that, I don't have to keep, oh, where am I in the drawing? Where was I? I'm not losing my place anymore. I'm always aware of where I am. And that way I can easily get these guys sketched in pretty accurately. So I say sketched in, I should actually say erased in, eh? Every now and again, just fold this guy over, because he gets dirty eventually, and just form yourself a new little chisel point like that. So you'll find that with these wrinkles and things, you've got a dark will be sitting right next to a light. Maybe I can demonstrate that for you. Let me get a piece of material and I'll show you what I mean. Let's just get that out the way. And then we put this material down here. So as you've got wrinkles like that, when it's a deep wrinkle, can you see you've got high contrast between there and there? Because it's deep down over here, the light can't get in there. So that's why it's really, really dark. So you've got a high contrast there. As I spread this guy out, so this guy's not as high anymore. Can you see you've got a much lower contrast between here and here and here and here. So that's how you define whether you've got a really deep wrinkle like this guy over here, by having a really high contrast. But like these guys over here, as this wrinkle curls around and it meets the nose, it flattens out. So you've got a much lower contrast. So the higher the contrast over there is deeper, but now also because it's deeper, it suddenly goes from light to dark. Where with these guys, it's very gradual, hey? Because you don't have much contrast there. Right, so let's get that back over there. And we'll go back to the eraser. I think I'll leave this. Let's dump that reference photo for now. I'll leave this here. I think it's Maybe even easier for you to reference from at this stage. Alrighty, so now I'm just putting in those flattened out little wrinkles like that. So at this point you may also find that, let's say for example there, you can see that contrast that you've got in there is too much. That's fine. You can at any time use the back of your kneaded eraser to soften it up, so don't worry about it. It's just more important that you create that texture. Because once you've created that texture, then it becomes easy. See you, Luke. Thanks for joining us. Right, let's move over to this side over here. So I'm just gently tapping in those little wrinkles. Just using that rounded edge over there like that. And by using these taps like that, can you see I'm starting to get that natural look. Alright, so over here it's quite fine. So you can go over to this guy. Which is my pen-shaped eraser, because it's quite detailed over here, eh? So here I'm going to erase smaller little dabs and dashes. So again, if you've got too much contrast like that, because let's say that there's too dark, don't worry about it. Just get the texture. That's all you're interested in. Here's a nice, almost like a little bit of a line running down there, right? And then it breaks up. And meets those guys. Alrighty, let's move down. So that there is too dark. So let's just tap him to get him a bit lighter. Okay, so I'll just reform my point again. So here in this area it's quite light, and there's a little bit stripy. So what I like to do is just take those stripes, and now here you're starting to get the pore texture. So I just let me show you in another area, then you can see better what I'm explaining, or what I want to explain. Can you see over here? These pores tend to go in a bit of a line like that. Can you see there? So the same thing is happening over here. Can you see there? There's a bit of a liney effect that those pores are forming. So I'm adding those lines in by erasing them. So here I can see their lines because I'm looking at them sort of at an angle. Here though, I'm looking flat on, so those lines aren't as visible. So here you use lines, and here you use dots. So that line effect gradually becomes dots. So look out for the liney effects on the sides. That's where you're going to find them. And then as you come out to here, now you're going to go over to using dots. So just reshape the tip of your eraser. Hi J-Lab, welcome. So this is not giving you every pore, but it's starting to give you that that dimpled type of effect. That you get from the pores. So you see, every now and again, I'm just reshaping it, because as I tap, that tip flattens out. Okay, so here we're still seeing a few more lines and stuff from those wrinkles. Okay, great. Now what you need is your blending stump. So there is a video on how to make a blending stump on my channel. So you're essentially just taking a sheet of photocopy paper, and you tear it in half like this. Then you put your finger here in the center, and then you roll it up like an ice cream cone. Now you put your hand on the inside. You see there's that little inside flap over there. You grab hold of that, and you grab hold of this edge over here, and you just pull it until you get a nice sharp point like that. And now you're going to use that sharp point to create your pores. So once you've got this shape, you just take some sellotape or some masking tape and just stick that down. Then you end up with this over here. So Susan is asking about these little white hairs, those fine white hairs that are on the nose over there. Susan, that's kind of details that I leave till right at the end, the very last thing. So some people would want to put it in, and some people are going to leave it out. That's sort of up to you, and if you're doing a commission, it's up to you and the customer to discuss those little fine details. If the person wants lots and lots and lots, every last detail, then you're going to put those fine little hairs in. And at the end of the class, I am going to show you how to do that. Otherwise, normally I would leave them out. Alright, so now I'm going to start getting some of these little pores in. I'm not going to get every pore in its correct place, absolutely not, and I don't think you need to, unless it's something that's like very, very prominent, or you know, like a freckle or so. So all I'm doing is just taking the tip of the blending stump, and I'm rubbing it over my paper that I've scratched, that we used with the cloth earlier. I'm just rubbing it over there to pick up some graphite. I will also often, if I'm working, I'd even just steal a little bit of graphite here from the dark areas, because it's not going to go any lighter. So I'm just going to steal a little bit over there. And now I'm going to start adding in some of these pores. So why I use a blending stump and not a pencil is because as you rub, a pencil will continue to lay down graphite. A blending stump, you're going to put down some graphite that's on the tip of the blending stump, and then that graphite will be done. There is no more. So it instantly goes over to shading, and that's what a pore is. If you had to enlarge a pore, it's going to look something like this. I'm just getting myself some, I've got some Play-Doh here, which works quite well for demonstrating this. Susan is asking, what's the brand of this little eraser pen? The one I use is the Tombow Mono eraser, but you get different brands nowadays. There's lots of people making them, so you don't have to buy the Tombow Mono. Alright, so let's say this is now your skin. Let's get a flat, even piece. And you should be able to buy a Tombow Mono at any reputable art dealer. So that's essentially what a pore is. It's a gap in the skin. So look what happens. In this case, our light is coming from the right to the left. So you've got a highlight because it's coming from the right. The highlight is on the left hand side, and the shadow is on the right hand side, on the sun side. So I'll leave that there because I'm going to use that for demonstrating other things shortly. If you don't get the Tombow Mono where you are, then what you can also do is you also get a pencil shaped eraser. So it literally looks like a pencil, but the tip is an eraser. You will look, this is not it, this is a blending stick, but it essentially looks like this. So then you can erase it. So your art supplier may have that. And if you don't, you can use just a regular eraser. Let me get one of those. Just one of these dudes. And now you take your knife. Just take your craft knife. And you're going to cut it off at an angle. So let me just put something down there to protect my drawing. You cut it off at an angle like that. And I'll even just use this. And look there. See, you've got that beautiful sharp little corner over there? That works just as well. To erase fine little details. See there? It gives you exactly the same effect. And if you need something bigger, then you can just use this guy and cut him off at an angle over there as well. So every now and again you just chop off a little bit more. Just not a problem. Alright, so I'm now going ahead and I'm just adding a whole bunch of these pores. So here I'm looking at these pores straight on, right? From the front. So the shape is round. As I come to the side of the nose, or any surface in actual fact, because you've got pores all over your skin, right? You've got this, and now look what happens when I turn it, so that you're seeing that pore from the side. Can you see what happens? This pore is now starting to look like an oval. See that? Where if you're looking at it from the front, it's a circle. So here I'm adding dots. When we get here to the side, I'm going to start using like a little bit of a flicking motion. To get elongated pores. You're starting to see all the detail coming out. Pretty cool, eh? It's quite easy too. It's not difficult. Like I say, you just have to be patient when doing this. So I'm just going to continue like this for a short while, just to build up a bunch. So as I do this, I'm looking for those lines. Maybe I showed you now earlier that these pores will tend to grow along lines. And these wrinkles are a good place to add them along the inside of that the dark of the line. I find that tends to look quite natural by doing that. Don't worry too much if everything is too dark. So here it's quite really very, very subtle, but it's there. So I'm adding it. Look carefully and you'll see the detail. Yes, here, can you see how I'm working along the line? Those lines that we erased earlier. Alright, for now I think let's stop at that. That's enough for you to see how to do it. So once I've now added these guys in, I'll come back and I'll just soften them. So I'm still using the blending stump, but the blending stump has now no new pencil on it. So it goes really quick, and that's just creating you that indentation where it's not hard, it's not like a solid hole like this. It's not like that. It's a gradual, it curves. Your skin is one continuous thing. So it's got a bit of a shading on this edge over here. It's not a sharp edge like that. So by softening these marks, that's essentially what you're doing. You're creating that little shading. And more often than not, this is enough. Alright, now I am going to use my pin-shaped eraser. And I'm going to take these guys. Our sun is coming from the left to the right, like this. So this side of these pore, of each of these pore, you get a little bit of a highlight. So I'm just very gently adding a little highlight onto that, and this little highlight makes that pore dent in and look deeper. So the bigger this contrast, the deeper that pore goes into the skin. So again, if it's looking too harsh, don't worry about it. We'll be adjusting. Okay, so same as here on the side, where the pore became elongated, so does this little shadow. So just remember that as you go along here, each of these little pores are elongated as you see it from the side. So you do have to think in perspective. Take care of perspective as far as that's concerned. So now I am also adding a few of these in places where there are no pores. And what they're doing is they're giving me the pores that are not that deep. Alrighty. Here in this area here, can you see it's like still very bright? So in cases like that, what I'll do is I'm going to erase that highlight, and I'm going to erase it in between the pores like this. In other words, that whole part of the skin is actually pointing towards the light. So everything is in highlight except the pore. And then you can take a look. Which pores are maybe too harsh? Let's say, for example, those three over there. You think they're a little bit too harsh. So you just come back in with that tap and just gently tap on top of it. Like those guys over there, they're very subtle, so just gently tap on it. And just like that, they've softened up. And they're not so deep. Because some people's pores are quite prominent, other people's aren't. So you can put them in, and this is how you soften them up. So here I'm still working on getting a bit more of a stripy effect here. Alright, let's work on this side of here. Let's start getting those guys nice and deep. So I'm going to go over to an 8B, but this time I'm going to use the sharp point. Because now we need to get details, right? So let's start here where it's at its darkest. So we'll fill in that dark over there. So I just want to establish this because this gives you the dark. A light thing appears closer, a dark thing appears further away. So that dark there gives you depth. And so from here, I'm going to just flick inwards. And what that flicking does, it gives you an effect like this. So I'll do it a few times. Where this here is dark, and because you're flicking, that there, it's like a shading using a single pencil stroke. So just by gently flicking into the inside of that fold, you make him go from deep to shallow. Now, again, feel free if you want to get this a perfect likeness, you know, if you're doing a commission or so on, then you need to get a good likeness. So use your finger. Now the inside of this wrinkle is the darkest, and then he shades lighter going out. So you'll put that dark in over there like that. Then you go over to a much softer pencil. So here I'm going all the way down to a 2H. And I'm going to go on either side of that dark. Another alternative, if it's big enough, if it's broad enough, you can use your blending stump and just gently rub over that. Just to the top and to the bottom, or to the left and to the right. And that'll also give you a shading like that. Alright, then, can you see this guy has got his own shape? He curves over and away from the light over here. So this side of that whole area is darker than that side over there. I think you can see it nicely on this guy. So the whole wrinkle itself needs a shading. Let me just do my flicking over here. So I'm using absolutely zero pressure. Don't be shy to go over to a harder pencil to get a softer shading. Super, super gentle touch. Okay, let's get some shading over here as well. So now at this stage I'm back to concentrating about the shape. Just wanting to get the shape and that tonal value correct. Okay, let's move down. And as before, I always like starting with a darker bit. Jessie's saying she can't draw. Jessie, it just takes practice. Learn the techniques and practice, and I promise you, you will be able to draw. Drawing is techniques, 50%. The other 50% is observation. You need to train your eye to see the details and more specifically the tonal values. If you can spot those tonal values, then your techniques help you draw it. So like here, that was too bright. Remember, this nose is curving around like this, away from the sunlight. So this over here, this highlight is not going to be as bright as that highlight over there. So I'm toning down that highlight. Now you'll find each wrinkle has its own wrinkles. Lakshmi, at the top of the screen, can you see there's a little color legend? So you can take a look at the color of my pencil. So for example, now I'm working with a 2H. So if you look there, you'll see the white. It tells you it's a 2H. So you can always tell what pencil I'm using by looking at that little legend at the top and the color of the pencil that I've got in my hand. So I'm adding those little wrinkles inside the wrinkles. And I'm always going to start putting them in using a 2H and the sharp point pencil, not the chisel point. Chisel point is for blending. Sharp point is for detail. So I'll get that detail in, and then once I've got it in, now I can come back in with a softer pencil. Very gently. And now you can get the tonal value correct of that shading that you've created. Okay, like this guy over here, he's got a few little pores that you can see. So I'm adding those pores in. Alright, so let's start getting this side over here darker. So that makes more sense. So now take a look inside these darks. There's other little skin details like that and that. So I'm going to put those skin details in as I go. So they'll initially start off too dark, or too light, sorry. They'll start off too light and be too prominent. But as I go along, and I've got my detail, same as what we did over there. Once you've got your detail right, then you come back in and you just adjust. All those tonal values and get them correct. This whole area needs to go darker still. So let's just do that. Just stand back for a second. Just so you can get the overall picture as well. So we're starting to get a nice amount of detail there, eh? All this here needs to go darker, and I'll gradually darken it. I'll get the texture and the skin effects. Hi Victoria, welcome. Okay, let's pick up our, because here's some more, I'm going to have to bring him back now again. So over here we've got some more pore details. And here's one of those places where you can again specifically see that rounding or that line effect that your pores do create. They curve like this to follow the shape of the face, the contour of the skin. Okay, here, can you see the nostril wing has got height. There's distance between here and there. So again, that tells me I need to get a found line. Nice sharp line over here to show that distance. So this here area is really dark. So generally you can just use the dots to get your pore effect. Okay, so can you see now that I've got an area and I'm more sure of my tonal values? Now I'm gradually darkening all these areas up to get those tonal values correct. And that's going to give you that depth that you want. Because the darker thing appears further away, and the lighter thing appears closer. So here I'm working over those little light bits that are left out over there for the detail. I'm working over them until they appear the same tonal value as what I see them on the photo. Gently rubbing until they're there. Right, so in that deep corner, it's really, really dark. So I'm actually going to go all the way over to a 9B. So what I've got is this pencil over here, it's a 9XB. It's extra dark. It's as good as black. And I'm going to pop that in. To really get this area as deep and as dark as it needs to be. And then from there you can go back to your 9Bs and so on for shading, or for your lighter, softer pencils, harder pencils. So this here is a 4B. So can you see now how I said in the beginning it takes time, and you need to be patient when you're doing these fine details. How long did it take us to get that initial shading in? Versus this detail here now. Quite a big difference, eh? And that's why when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I like to put on some good old music, pump the vibes, and you just get into a zone. Hi, Prissy, welcome. So yeah, you absolutely have to be patient, but it's fine. It's drawing. Love drawing. So you can sit and do this the whole day, no problem. Okay, so I'm back now to just tonal value adjustments. I can see this side of this whole side of the nose. Even though I've got all the effects and everything, can you see that? It's too light. So you can easily take your a whole pencil. So let's go back to the chisel point, because it's good for shadings. And now you sit back. You sit well back. And you go over everything that you've drawn. Don't worry about the pore texture or anything. You just worry about that tonal value. And you get it right. Even way out over here, it needs a bit more tonal value. Now look what's happening. Can you see? I can still see all that pore texture. It's all there. And that's exactly what happens when you have something that's going into darkness, the detail, even though it's still there, it gradually just becomes less obvious. And that's exactly what's happening now. Still there, you have put it in. It's just now less obvious. And this is the amazing thing. As you work and you add more and more detail in, the more detail you've got in, the more detail your eye is able to see. Your eye gets more and more tuned in to what you're drawing. See, I can see this. It's a lovely reflected light, but the one that I've got in here is too bright at the moment. So I'm just going over all of this. And I'm adjusting that tonal value. And as I do, this guy's gradually looking more and more and more realistic. So having said that, I'll often leave like reflected light areas like this. I'll often leave that a little bit brighter than what I'm seeing it on the reference photo. It just adds extra sunlight into the scene. So you sort of think of it as you're enhancing that effect that you've got. Okay, let's just darken this up. This whole area here is too light. I may as well even use a cloth. In actual fact, today the drawing isn't shiny, and what I'm seeing on my monitor versus what I'm seeing in real life here in the studio, they're the same. Alright, let's go to that camera for a minute. It's nice to stand well back every now and again, just to give yourself that overall picture. So I'm taking a look at that and I'm comparing it with my reference photo. I can see this little highlight over here is a little bit too bright, so I'm just tapping him to adjust him. But if I look at, let's put the actual photo itself. Down there. Maybe I can move this camera up ever so slightly. Hey, sorry about the shake. There we go. Okay, can you see how nice it's looking? Let's start working on this little fold over here. So it starts off quite shallow over there, so there's very little contrast in this area. And then here, as it becomes deeper, it becomes darker. And again, this folds over there. So there's a little bit of distance there that we can't see, a little bit of skin that we can't see. So here, in that area there, we've got a bit of a found line. This here is now super dark, and we're quite confident of everything at this point over here. So I can start pressing quite hard in this area to get full darkness. As I do, I'm doing it in a smaller area than what it needs to be. Because the outside edges of a shadow always fade out and fade softer. Shadows don't have hard edges, except right up against the object itself. In other words, I'm leaving that edge there a shading. I'm leaving that edge there a shading. Alrighty, let's start getting some shading in over here as well. So there, what we can do is let's use the cloth, and let's just get ourselves some tonal value there that we can work into and that we can erase. So I'll pop that down there like that. And now it's a new area, so it's all the way back to the kneaded eraser. Now you're going to start lifting out these little wrinkles. They're broader over there. And then narrower as we come in over here. And then they curl back on themselves. That one there's really broad. And these guys over here come down quite far. These guys, they just gradually taper off and disappear on us in that area over there. Right, so let's just go to here. I can zoom in again with the other camera without giving you whiplash. So look there, just using that kneaded eraser has given you that 90%. Pretty cool, eh? How easy that was. Yeah, I think we can dump the reference photos. The printout is working fine. So now I'll just use 2H. And now just refine, so I can see it needs to go darker here by the eye. And I'm working in those little distinct lines that we've got there. So when you're doing this kind of thing, you want to really be careful that you get your directions right. So you'll also notice that I'm constantly turning my pencil, because what's happening is as you work, your pencil gets blunt, right? So by turning the pencil every now and again, you're essentially sharpening that pencil as you work. Yeah, so these little wrinkles come down to here and then they just disappear on you. They curve slightly downwards this way to meet the contour of the face. Okay, we can go over to a softer or a darker pencil. And just gradually continue to refine. So this here is eventually very, very dark. So I'm not drawing the actual, that little shadow that's cast there. I'm just this rounding over here is what I'm worried about at this stage. And just the tonal values. Get these tonal values right. So we are heading towards the eye, yeah. We've already done the eye, so I'm not going to get too far involved out with the eye. Just adding little bits of details here and there. Okay, here's some more pore detail. Not very harsh, but now that I've got these lines in, now I can go in and add those pores inside the grooves. And that way they're following the contour of the face, and then they look natural. there we go. Eraser. Give him his little highlight. And they had a few where there are no dots. Here in the lighter areas, that just gives you that representation that there are other pores there, but they're not deep, they're not dark. But they're there. Right, so I think we'll leave it at that there today. I know you've got the techniques. And there's enough for you to see the end result, to see what it is going to look like when you've done everything. Let's do that. There we go. Alrighty, so I hope you enjoyed that class. If you are a patron, please post your photograph for me on the, or your drawing for me on the website, so that I can take a look and give you my feedback. If you aren't a patron, you can sign up there on my website, onlineartlessons.com. I could put the website address maybe on the screen there for you. There's the address over there. There you'll get access to over 200, 300 art classes there already, plus all these classes. You can get the edited version, which you can see the edited video, plus the handouts and all those kinds of things. Oh, yes. Lakshmi is saying I'm sure about the hair. Putting in the hair. Okay. Let me set up that camera quickly so that I can get nicely zoomed in. I'll show you how to draw that hair. It's actually super simple. And super quick. Looks like I'm playing hangman. Okay, let's see. Like that over there. Let's go to that camera now. Alright, so what you want to do is take your pen-shaped eraser. So now it's really important that you do have a pen-shaped eraser. And you're going to take your knife. Let me just put something down to protect my drawing there. You're going to take your knife and you're going to cut this off at a 45-degree angle like that, so that you end up with a nice super sharp edge. Cut mine a little bit even shallower than that. There we go. Can you see that? So you end up with that super sharp edge, and you can use that to put in those little hairs over there. So all you do is you make sure you've got that sharp edge along the length of the hair, and then you just gently go over. No pressure whatsoever, but you've got to go over that same place the whole time. You can't go a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. And that's how you're going to lift out those little hairs. like that. Very gentle, just keep going over the same place. I promise you, it will eventually lift. Obviously, the longer you make this mark, the longer the hair is. The shorter you make it, the shorter the hair is. It's as simple as that. Easy peasy. Alrighty, let's go back to there. Sounds like my dog wants to eat somebody. Alrighty, so I hope you enjoyed the class. I'll see you next time.